For some reason, one of the questions that's come up a couple of times this week in classes and in podcasts is, when do you feel justified in pulling a story? And by pulling a story, I mean taking a story that has been submitted to a market and saying, hey, I don't want you to consider it, or taking a market that's already accepted a story and saying, yeah, I've changed my mind. So let me talk about both of those and why you might want to, and sort of what reaction you can expect. So if you are pulling it before it has been accepted, generally you would be pulling it because they are sitting on it a long time, or somehow otherwise being disrespectful to you would be the normal thing. Or, uh, maybe they've done something where you're like, oh, maybe I should look harder at that market, and you've changed your mind. In those cases, it's fine to just write something and say, this is my notice that I am withdrawing the story. The reaction to that will depend a bit on the editor's level of professionality. If they are a professional editor, they know that sometimes one withdraws a story and they're fine with it. If they react with vitriol and denunciations and all of that, well, then that just sort of underscores the fact that you made the right decision, because clearly this is a jerk. So, okay, so that's like why you might pull a story before it's accepted. Now, when might you pull a story after it's been accepted? Well, it comes down to, in my opinion, one of two things. One would be the editor is treating you badly in some way. They are asking you to make unreasonable changes. They are giving you a contract where you're just like, you have, as one should, gone and checked the SIFWA contracts and said, oh, this violates this model contract in several ways, and pushed back. So that might be a reason why the editor is treating you in such a way that you're just like, yeah, I don't feel like dealing with you. In which case, maybe try and talk it out first. That's a reasonable thing. But what if they have done something, uh, like gotten embroiled in some controversy? What if they have shown themselves to be using some unethical business practice? Anything like that. Well, in that case, my rule of thumb is this a place where I would feel embarrassed to appear? Knowing what I know, would I feel embarrassed to appear in this magazine? And I will admit there's at least one magazine that I feel conflicted about, which is Playboy, right? Venerable American institution, pays very well, has published people like Ursula Le Guin. On the other hand, kind of founded on some bullshit stuff that I think is kind of stupid. Do I want to appear there? I don't know, but I have never submitted anything to them, so luckily this question will never come up for me. Um, so in one of the conversations that I was having, the person was saying, I think they were trying to get at the question as, when would you pull a story after it's been accepted, out of fear, out of, I don't want to get embroiled in this controversy, or if I become associated with this person, I am signaling that I've joined with a particular faction. And, that just seems stupid to me. Um, w- the internet, there are controversies, and some of them last a while and some of them don't. And it's social media. And honestly, I don't know that I think some of the Twitter shitstorms are really worth even following. Certainly, Twitter has done huge amounts of good in terms of some political stuff, which I appreciate. But social media has also done a lot of bullshit stuff, as we're seeing come out. So Yeah, who knows? I could argue it either way, which I'm sure is no use to you whatsoever. What I do suggest is that you do your homework before you submit. You don't just look at, call for submissions and say, oh, they are having a call for submissions about stories about squids or whatever. Apologies to anyone who's currently doing an anthology about squids that feels singled out. I'm not aware of any. Um, but you go look at their backlist and you go look at who's publishing with them, and you're like, hey, is this somebody I'll be excited about being published with? Uh, One of the interesting moments for me about science fiction was that I sold a story to Weird Tales. And I was super stoked about that Weird Tales story because I thought, oh, I'm part of the tradition. And this is a magazine which is very venerable in our genre. It's one that's published a lot of really important people. So, how cool to be published, not just in that, but picked by one of my favorite editors, Anne Vandermeer. And so that was super cool. And then Weird Tales started making some interesting publishing choices that I, quite frankly, did not want to be associated with. And so I don't send them stuff anymore. And in some ways, it kind of tainted a little bit of the joy in that publication. So, it's worth thinking about. And let me say also, I'm very lucky in that economic circumstances let me think about this. And I fully acknowledge sometimes you go for the money, right? Because sometimes you need to. And that is absolutely a respectable stance, in my opinion. So I hope that's useful, or at least, I don't know, not entertaining, but makes you think about some things that might be useful or not. If you thought it was, please like and subscribe and comment and all that sort of good stuff. And that lets me know that I should keep on doing those rather than focus on something else. I'm like a little hamster. If you want to coax me to run on this wheel, give me some little pellets. Oh, that sounds sort of disgusting. At any rate, have a fabulous rest of your day or night whenever you're watching this, and go right. Thanks a lot.